all over it. Oh, I want it all. I want it all.
See, I love the fact that we're live right now. Calvin's going, I want it all.
Don't worry.
You guys are horrible.
I'm watching. I'm watching. I know when you go live, Tim. You don't scare me, nor do you shock me ever.
Calvin, who's going to home run derby?
I'm watching it right now.
Oh, I forgot that was even on.
Oh, who's gonna win?
Vladdy.
No, he chokes. I'm trying to think who the top eight, who the 8 are. Oh, Mookie.
What about Alonso? Mets.
Mookie winning it.
Alonso would be the only other 3-time winner other than Griffey.
I see Lugo winning it. It's in Seattle.
Who won last year?
Some dude. I don't know.
Some guy beat Lugo. I know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but who?
I
couldn't remember who won last year.
I don't know.
Somebody look that up. We're live. Somebody look up
live.
who won the home run.
Welcome to episode 122 of Ripping the Rack podcast. This is a very special episode. I am your host, Tim. With me today is the King of the North, Calvin Locke.
Gentlemen.
Calvin, how are you?
It's not Locke anymore. It's Locke.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. It's just Calvin Locke now.
It's bloody hot here, but I'm fantastic.
That's because you're not here. It's been cold and rainy all day here.
I'll take it. I'll take it all day.
No.
It's miserable.
It's like 47 degrees, which is like 98 in Canada right now. It's
like 47 degrees here.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll trade you. Your 47 for my 47.
Let's see. With us today, I've got the Coastal Crusader, Mr. Brian Athern. Brian, how are you?
Good. How you doing, everybody? Glad to be here. It's going to be awesome.
And we have a special guest, folks.
Did you even introduce yourself?
Yes, I said this is Tim.
Tim Hall of Fame Matero. You didn't.
I
Hall of Fame Matero.
All right, that's who I am. Thank you.
There you go.
I appreciate it. Joining us today, we have a special guest. He is a new inductee into the International Candlepin Bowling Association Hall of Fame. Hell of a competitor on the lanes, but an even nicer guy, Mr. Bobby Whitcomb. Bobby, how are you, buddy?
Great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. Feels awesome to talk bowling and talk sports, and I'm ready.
The King of the South. See, we got the King of the North and the King of the South. We're all set.
Wouldn't you be the king of the show?
Right. We got it all covered.
Just the South. That's all that matters.
Nice. Got a couple of things to talk real quick before we jump into.
There was so much bowling over the weekend. How are you Americans still bowling in the weekends? It's bloody hot.
I haven't picked up a ball since
game alive.
Man, we can have a summer break. NHL has a summer break. Like, we can have a little bit of a break. It's only a month. Like, the next big tournament's in August. Like, we can have a little bit of a break.
Well, maybe we don't like to have a little bit of a break, Calvin.
You guys are crazy.
So we did have Evan's tournament up at Bangor Brewer this past weekend. The all-nighter, their first annual all-nighter. I think nice. Brian, you bowled in that, correct?
I did. It was a great time. It was a very awesomely run tournament, and it went very quickly. We started at 5, and I think it got over around 2:15.
That's not all night then. What's the point?
Well, that's all night for me. I mean, that's halfway.
Yeah, that's like 8 hours into your sleep.
Well, no, the thing is, a lot of us came from an hour and a half away. So if you weren't staying, by the time you got home, the sun was coming up.
Oh, I guess. All right. But you're supposed to like bowl till the sun came up.
So the winning team was Team Weber.
They beat us in the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?
Yeah.
You're talking about playoffs?
Was that Cole Fry or DJ Fry's team? Second
I believe it was Cole's team because DJ bowled with Penny.
Oh, because Team Penny came in third.
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe Cole bowled. No, that would have been the other match. See, the way they did it was in the playoffs. They only paid the top 3 spots. So if you were the losers of the semis, you had to bowl for third place money.
Oh, okay. I like that. Put a little extra on there.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out a couple of things. Aaron St. Cyr through his new high single.
176, yeah.
Nice string, bud.
That
And
was awesome to watch and keep score for. That
and
double was obliterated.
I got really confused. Russ Neely Jr. with a high average of 128.4. I got confused. I thought they used Russ Sr. scores from 20 years ago.
Everything Saturday night. He made everything.
Well, he's a Neely, so
I made one good shot. I made the eagle in the playoffs and then promptly threw 189 on it. And then left the 5 pin.
I think we've been there.
Yeah, it was a good dichotomy of the night because I think Evan and I threw about 247,000 spread eagles between us.
That's a lot of spread eagles.
It really was. Evan had 5 in a game.
Oh,
Wow.
oh. See, I haven't picked up a ball since the end of April or beginning of May or whatever it is, and just throwing that many spread eagles in a string just doesn't appeal to me. Well, like when I think I want to come back and bowl, you say something like that, and
that's 9:30 at night when it's still 85 degrees in the bowling alley. You don't want to be throwing 5 spread eagles a game.
Man,
no.
that's what bowling is. It's the enjoyment of being punished.
Yes,
that's what we do to ourselves.
And while we're on the topic of Bangor, Evan just announced a cool. This sounds like a cool tournament. Saturday, September 2nd, 9 a.m. start. This is a double elimination tournament. It is handicap doubles, 90% of 125. 8-string qualifier. Top 16 teams make the playoffs. This is $80 per person, $160 per team, $10 also for the team high single. Contact Evan via Facebook, or you can text him at 207-356-4847 to sign up.
You just have a phone number on YouTube for everyone to hear all of
his phone number is out on Facebook for everybody to see.
That's true.
I should start sending them dirty pictures.
I'm not quite sure. I haven't had a chance to talk to Evan to really see how this is going to work, but it looks like this is going to be kind of 2 brackets. Losers of the first round going to the losers bracket, winners going to the winners bracket. Once you lose,
standard double elimination style tournament you would have in a softball tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
So basically, it means if you lose and you come out of the winners bracket, there will be the team at the end you have to beat twice to win.
Okay. Which I totally understand. I really like this format. Payouts, he's basing this off from 30 teams. This is pretty good payouts, folks. First place will be $1,500 based on 30 doubles teams.
That's pretty good.
That was first place for the all-nighter for 4 people.
Was $1,500?
It was $1,500. He only had 10 teams, so that was a really good tournament.
Yeah.
Now he only paid 3 spots, but it made you bowl, and I liked that. 3 out of 10. I mean, that's not bad for the all-nighter.
No, that's pretty good. And then Paul Grant, being the lovely gentleman that he is. Thank you, Paul. By the way, I say this because I would have forgotten about half this stuff you just sent me. So let's see. The first thing he sent was the women's results from this Sunday, Candlepins for Cancer Ladder 2 from Exeter Lanes. By the way, folks, if you didn't, I was able to catch some of that this weekend. The first match came down to the last ball. Amy Doobie beat Peg Donnelly in the last ball of a 3-string match, 311 to 309. Maddie then went on a run. She beat Amy Doobie. Then she beat Faye Sawyer. And then in the finals, which was actually another really fun match to watch, she beat the number 1 seed Sharon Britton, 356 to 340. Really kind of cool. I don't know if any of you 3 was able to watch any of that.
I watched a little bit of the finals.
I did watch the final match. It was a good match.
It was a good match, but did you hear?
I didn't get a chance to. I was sleeping.
Well,
good. It came down to like the end of the last string. It was really close. And, I'm happy to see Shireen hang in there because we all know how good Maddie is, and Shireen really has improved her game. It's good to see it.
Yeah, it was really good to see. But the thing that really stuck out to me, and I heard it a little bit, but it wasn't until Maddie put a post on Facebook. I can't remember if it was on her Facebook page or if it was on Candlepin chat, talking about the experience bowling and how different it seemed in a good way, meaning there were people there, everybody was cheering for everybody. It wasn't, you know,
it was more of a spectacle than
it
matches
me
going
of the old
on.
Channel 5 shows you watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
really did.
Like
Yes.
it was more like when you're bowling a match, like if you're bowling in or even a tournament, you know, there's 5 different matches or everything going on around you, whereas those everybody's centralized around that one match. And then the next match, and then the next match after that, right? Instead of where, you know, even at Worlds, there's 2 matches going on. So everybody's spread out cheering on different things, right? Whereas that, everybody's cheering on those 2 bowlers. So it's like you're the center of attention type thing.
But this is, and I think Bobby can talk about this later on, was the difference between like when we came on the scene in the late 80s, early 90s to now. And you didn't, like back then, I was taught you don't cheer for the other bowler.
Right.
Not at all.
Not at all.
It's
Like you don't
you don't
high five the other bowler. You don't
high fives after every 2 boxes. There was none of that back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was more cutthroat back then, no question.
I don't want to say this in a negative way.
Oh, definitely not. It's all competitiveness.
It was all competitiveness, but you know, after the match, sure, high five, shake hands, everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I don't know, and maybe it's the fact that I'm just getting older. And
I think it parallels like baseball. You see a lot of the old managers now, La Russa and those guys, have a hard time with today's culture. Like, you don't really see a whole lot of the retaliation anymore, you know? You don't see a lot of the throwing at guys anymore, really, unless it's an older player, honestly. So I think it kind of matches that. Like today, I don't want to say that we're, you know, maybe Calvin and I's generation is looser, but I just think that I think we would rather show our competitiveness more loudly.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I just thought it was, I don't know, maybe this is the first time that I really noticed it.
It's certainly not a bad thing. I hope you're not saying it's a bad thing.
Especially between, like with the match with Sharon and Maddie. And I hope maybe I'm saying her name wrong, and I hope I'm not, and I apologize if I am. Not Maddie. I know how to say Maddie. You know, but them cheering each other on and yet getting up and still competing. And I think that's where I struggled when I was younger. Was I learned from Russ Neely. I learned tunnel vision, like pay attention to my own thing.
Yeah, worry about your own pins.
Yeah.
Just not worry about what the other person's doing. Just try to focus in and do what you got to do up there.
But Bobby, even you've you've changed too, and I only say that because thank you, Paul. I was saying it right. I came across a match at Exeter that you and I had in 2021 in the Pro League, in the once a month Pro League. And,
yep. Okay.
And you had made a couple of shots, and I made it. We both made a couple of shots in between there, but I noticed that we were still congratulating each other while we were bowling, like nice shot or something like that. And that's not something we would have done, 20 years ago.
No question. It's like, I remember like even going out of the area for like a Channel 5 roll-off back in the day. I was lucky enough to bowl in the South Shore and Cape area for Channel 5. They had 6 different areas. And if you went outside of your area to bowl in a roll-off, they made sure that you were not welcome there. They cheered against you. They would not want you. They want their own people from their own areas to make the show back then. Where it is more today, where everybody's got to be on the same boat because it's like a small community, Candlepin-wise now. So we all got to kind of like pitch in and cheer for each other. Like back then, if you went out of the South Shore area, they'd be looking at me like, "What are you doing here?" That's the way it was back in the day.
Man, I wished I honestly wished I'd have known about those roll-offs back in the day. but living up where I lived in Western Maine, I just didn't hear about him. I didn't know about him.
Yeah. Because I remember Charlie, he would fly down, I heard, by helicopter, go to a Channel 5 roll-off and get on TV and bowl. Because I remember seeing Charlie on Channel 5 and winning shows on there. He would fly down by helicopter, go to a roll-off, stay the night, bowl the finals. Like you go to a semifinal, then you bowl the finals the next day. And he did it all, then show up for the tape and just go from there.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wish I was alive back in the day, or things were cheaper now, because I do those all the time. I'd go to whatever. Like, I'd probably go to every tournament that you guys have, but I can't afford it. I can't getting across and American money and then all that. Like, I'd love to do all that if everything was cheaper, but
because back
if it was different, hold on.
Every time you won, it was $1,000. It was $750 for winning, guaranteed. That's without bonus money. And you get to come back and you're guaranteed another $350.
Yeah.
So you're talking like at least $1,200 every time you won a show on Channel 5 back in the 90s.
And you had to throw consecutive marks to win, so you were going to make bonus money.
Yeah. You would have had to have big matches, so you're more than likely going to have 3 or 4 in a row, at least in 1 or 2 of those strings. So when you win, you're always getting bonus money. Like,
absolutely.
Dang, I wish we could get something like that going.
The first time I made the singles, I bowled Jeff Atkins. He threw 4 strikes in a row against me and made 2 grand in 1 string against me.
Oh my God.
On his way to 432, and I think I lost by like 80.
Yeah, wow.
And I will say this, as far as the Exeter thing, special thanks, obviously, to Rob and Darren for helping out there. Rob does a fantastic job at Exeter. And then obviously you had the Candlepin Bowling Network that was there, Mike Moore and Greg Guyar and Bob Lee. So great job with that. What else do we have? We have the last thing he sent me, the Candlepin Bowling Network will be covering the Candlepin Hall of Fame ceremonies pending Wi-Fi. It will be recorded as well. So they will either stream it and record it, or they will record it and then post it. So we can hear Bob's speech over and over and over. And my speech. But so thank you, Paul Grant, for sending that information over. Certainly appreciate that. Let's see. I think we got something coming. What's coming up? There's something coming up. Oh, the women's.
We have a big doubles tournament at Exeter this weekend. I'm bowling with Maddie.
Yes.
Yes. And her and I are bowling this weekend. It's like an elimination tournament. I think there's 24 teams, and Maddie and I won last year. It's a very good payoff. It was like $1,400 for the winners last year.
Is that this weekend?
Games. It's this weekend. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The Sunday.
Yep.
Oh. Okay. I thought that was in a couple weeks. I didn't
in a couple weeks is the Russ Neely all-nighter at Stars and Stripes.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, there's I will tell you folks, you got the women's doubles event September 9th at Exeter. Thank you, Paul Grant. See, this is why we have Paul Grant here. Telling us what's going on. We have the women's doubles event September 9th at Exeter. For more information, check out Candlepin Chat. There is information on there. I was just going to say to check out Candlepin Chat for other tournaments, specifically the Women's International, which is August 5th, I believe, 5th, August 5th. That is at Exeter. I don't know if they're taking teams still. You'd want to check with Amy Doobie on that one. And also you can find that information there as well. Let's see, the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, their Class A, B, and C championships were completed yesterday. Congratulations to all 3 winners, and I'm looking for them right now. I know Justin Waters won for Class A.
What a year he had, huh?
Oh, he had a great year.
Wasn't it Little or Joey Little or something? I think I can't remember.
Dan Esdale won, I believe, in the B division.
Esdale.
Yes.
Esdale, yeah.
And Jeff Little, Jeffrey Scott Little won the Class C champions. Unfortunately, the stream went down and they lost some formatting, so they weren't able to post some of those. I just saw that announcement that came out. They had some technical problems, unfortunately.
Happens.
Which leads me to my next thing. I want to shout out Caitlin Finn and Carrie Ann for their TikTok Candlepin bowling TikTok
I got
channel.
TikTok famous. I was excited. Apparently, it's a 3-parter, so I'm excited. I don't remember what it did. Yeah, Chad, come on! Oh, I was so excited. When you missed that.
I think. How do I word this? So, I saw something today or yesterday. Their TikTok live got reported. Yeah. Don't know who. I don't care to know who. I don't need to know who. I just think whoever did it to I won't say what I almost just said.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. They're trying to grow the game, and if it's a 10-pin bowler that's doing it, come on, man. And if it's another Candlepin bowler that is doing it, because
it could also just be random people.
No, it's not. They've been able to find out, I think, who did it. And I'm not going to get into details. I don't know all of them, so I don't want to speculate, and I don't want to start rumors. Just be better, folks. Come on. You're doing it out of jealousy because they're having fun and they're having something successful. Would what you want to say fall under the hateful speech category? Caitlin, yes, it was. Let's put that right on the show so everybody can see it. Would what you want to say fall under the hateful speech category? And that is an absolute yes.
Yeah.
I just come on.
Rutschman's up.
You just trying
crushing it,
and he's putting on a show.
Hey, pay attention.
What? I am. I'm paying attention to the home run derby. It's awesome. Okay, you continue.
Thank you. I just have a hard time with people that are trying to grow the game running into problems like this that, frankly, you don't need, because TikTok, social media, and all that, there's so much room for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Don't be a douche. I guess that's the PG-13 way of saying what I really would like to say. So anyway, for those of you that don't follow Candlepin Bowling on TikTok, you guys got to, because Caitlin and Carrie, they do a fantastic job with it. They're a riot. I mean, they even mic'd up Calvin. I don't think that was really funny, but you know
it was.
Chad.
You were laughing. Chad.
I did laugh at the Chad. I would love a true mic'd up, like
I told her, I
like
said,
how they mic up first baseman.
I said the best part of what you are is when I'm standing back here and I'm lipping the people who are up there. That's the best parts, but they only mic up when you're on the lane. So like it only activates when you're on the lane, because that's when she starts recording. So everything that I was saying in the back is not being recorded, and that's funnier than what I say up on the lanes.
Because that might fall under the hateful speech category.
I mean, you gotta have two separate. You gotta have the PG-13, and then you gotta have the rated R section.
The
NSFW section.
The NSFW section, and I gotta tell you, I watched Calvin's and I laughed. I did, because obviously I know Calvin and I know Chad and. Chad. It just cracks me up. But I would absolutely love to have been mic'd up at some of my tournaments, just to actually hear what the hell I say, because
you know what, and this is just a suggestion.
Danny Finn just sent me a message on Facebook, goes, PG-13 is on the OnlyFans page.
Yeah. So I think if I believe there's obviously a technology out there but I believe that there should be either an all-nighter or even during some of the matches that Paul Grant films or whatever when they're doing their lives at like the Easter Classic, that they've got to have some kind of wireless mic that you can hook up to one of the bowlers on each team, and they can be mic'd up for the whole match. So that their voices come in as the same time as the video's going. I think that would be hilarious.
Bobby, would you want to be mic'd up?
TV.
Oh yeah,
Bobby, would you want to be mic'd up?
It all depends on how you're bowling.
No, you got to take the good with the bad.
I would do it. I would absolutely do it.
I'd love it.
It's going to be a lot of me calling myself
I'd have
dumb.
so much fun with it, like Kelvin did. It would be great. It would be awesome.
Yeah,
you're going to hear I'm terrible a lot.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I'm brutal.
I wonder if I'm gonna put this, as I know Danny and Caitlin will listen to this, if they have some free time, maybe sometime in November 6th through the 11th.
Yeah, and
if they make the trip to
Moncton for, just some shopping, maybe Christmas.
Maybe some shopping. There's a casino in Moncton.
There's a bowling alley just down the road.
You know,
there's the steakhouse, the Keg, which is amazing.
You know, I would think of a few people that would be really fun to have mic'd up during that tournament.
Oh, can we mic up Snog?
Yeah. I don't know if Snoz is bowling anymore.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Oh, speaking of worlds, I heard a rumor, Bobby, that you guys picked up someone today or this week.
That is true.
Up Tim Matero?
No.
That's a shame.
Nope.
You guys really had a shot.
Is that for public knowledge yet, or?
I'm gonna hold off on saying I'm not sure if it's public knowledge yet. They told me to keep it under the hat.
Okay.
How does Tim know?
Hot stove season.
We'll keep it under the hat. We won't but it's a big one, folks.
How does Tim know?
It's
I don't know.
Stay tuned.
I heard about it on the 4th, actually.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so who was with Craig Holbrook on the 4th? Craig Holbrook pictures. Who was with?
Okay, Calvin TMZ.
Adrian Rogeranowski over here. We got a Woj bomb.
I'll be with that.
You know, no, that's oh.
He'll be right back, he said.
Oh, I didn't hear him. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about him. You know what? Let's we got Bobby on here. Let's talk bowling.
There was also real quick. There was the other tournament. The other roll off was yesterday too. I'm sorry. It was a New England Candlepins taping was yesterday.
Yep.
As well.
And
some of that it was on Saturday. They did a great job down there. Finn and all those guys. They did a terrific job. Richie Myrick was doing some of the commentary.
Dave Teskov was doing some.
They do a great job down there. And I watched some of the tape, and it was good. It was good bowling.
Oh, did you go to the taping?
I watched some of it. Yes, me and Craig went down there. We had to watch Chris Jones and Danny Harris, and a few other guys that we know were down there.
I know we can't really. I know we can't give spoilers, and I'm not going to ask for any.
There's no spoiler, but there is a quite interesting result in the.
It was good bowling though. The shows were very good.
I was
actually I saw Raj Bowl.
I was just going to say I was surprised, pleasantly surprised to see the number one seed being who. I mean, say what you want about Chris. I have had the pleasure of knowing him for a long time, and I've bowled with him and I've bowled against him.
It's one of the best.
He is one of the best of all time. I don't care. Take personalities out of bowling. And you look at their talent and what they've done.
Guys like that, just crazy.
I mean, you can make
12 200 strings,
something like that.
Something, yeah.
And isn't he like 3 500s or something like that?
Oh, he's got more than that. He and I had the conversation that I think he had like 5 or 6 500s.
I know he has an 800. I witnessed it.
I mean, he is probably the most explosive bowler I've ever seen.
Easily. Well, especially when the ball goes 70 miles an hour. It smashes the pins.
They go.
Yeah. I mean,
And I was
I guess there's
talking
no
to him.
yeah.
But
I was
to be able
talking
to,
to him at the taping, and he told me that he hasn't bowled like in 3 years, and he goes down there and bowls 3 strings, bowls 428. I know the place was moving good, but 428.
wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's just very few guys like Chris Sargent out there, no question.
So Angela, yes, Ryan Drago, he's it's Ivan's cousin.
His brother's cousin's
Cousins,
Uncle.
uncle's nephew, niece's uncle's cousin.
Yeah.
He is a good kid, and he's a good team bowler. So thank you for the shout out for that. So Bobby, I gotta ask, because I've obviously known you a long time, bowled against you a long time.
Yeah. Yep.
People would like to know that, has it sunk in yet that you're in the Hall of Fame?
It has now. You know what's weird? When I first got the call from Marianne, you know, and she says, "Hey, congratulations! You know, you're in the Hall of Fame." Blah blah blah. And I talked to her for a few minutes, and you hang the phone up, and it's like hours later, it starts setting in. You're like, "Oh my god!" Then when I went up to the Mixed Worlds this past year, and they make an announcement, "Hey, congratulations!" and everybody's kind of pat you on the back, and it's like, wow, and it's kind of really setting in now, and it's like a real big deal. I'm like. So I'm really excited to go up there in October and, you know, represent and have fun and all of it. I'm just soaking it all in, really. Like Mike Warren sent me a text and say, just soak it all in until October and enjoy the whole experience of it. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. It's been great.
It was pretty cool coming down to the Mixed Worlds and being able to congratulate you and Steve Reno.
Oh, it's great.
You know,
I like to see everybody.
Unfortunately, Brian and I had to get home because it was a quick day trip for us. But I know we had wanted to get that picture with Steve, you and I.
Yeah.
So
hey, we'll get soon. We'll get some in October.
Yeah, sometime soon. But if I haven't said it enough, I think you are definitely worthy. You are definitely a first ballot in my eyes. So
it feels great I think the longevity has definitely helped. In just bowling on a lot of good teams, like a lot of good Maria's teams over the years. They've always helped. I've always had good teammates. You know, make the playoffs every year, bowling in that tournament since 1994. I think it's a great accomplishment. You know, bowling for Maria's when they had 3 playoff teams make it. You know, and all you guys know how hard it is to win in that tournament. And then never mind qualifying for the playoffs, but to win the tournament is just, it's really it's incredible. Yeah. I know. It's all bad for you, Calvin, but
I've done it 3 times.
I know.
I have not. I would like to do it more. I mean,
yeah, I've done it twice.
I hate all you guys right now.
Brian, how you feeling, buddy?
Left out.
It's okay, Brian. We can talk wrestling.
Hey, listen, you know how they say that every Olympic sport should have the one average person there just as like a barometer of how good they are? That's what I am with you guys.
So another question for you, Bobby, is you've got a distinct bowling style.
Mm-hmm.
How did someone teach you that, or did you just kind of?
I think I developed it over years. It's funny because you look back from video from the 90s, and I'm surprised like how fast I used to stand way back and just kind of like not walk, but you know, kind of charge the line a little bit. But I just think over time, as I've gotten older and tried to adjust it, I've moved up closer to the lanes. I'm down the middle now. I've tried to slow myself down to try to be accurate and I just want to keep it going as long as I can. You know, I love the game. I still love the game to this day, and I still think I can help. So I just want to keep going in my 50s and see how long I can go. I don't know if I can go as long as Craig, but you know, I just want to try to keep going as long as I can.
Have you ever blown out your back? Because when you pop down and pop up, I don't know how I could ever do it.
You know what's funny, Calvin? And I don't know if Timmy remembers, like the first couple of years when I bowled in the Worlds, if I had a single pin and I knew, you know when you release the ball and you know you're gonna make it, I used to stomp on the floor, go crazy in the 90s. Oh, I was a freaking nut back then. Crazy. I never feel my back. If anything, it's my left knee because I kind of try to get as low as possible. So I've hurt my knee a couple of times, but I've never had to get it done or anything. But it's always been like little aches and pains. But I've done a lot of like exercising over the years and trying to keep it going. I do a lot of walking. I go to the gym and just want to keep it going.
So what would you, Bobby, because you and I had this conversation at Exeter. You had started yoga. You had
I was
started
doing Pilates because
Pilates. I'm sorry, Pilates. Yeah.
Pilates, and Pilates definitely helped my back. So I go in there with like 9 women and me and one other guy, and all the women are just doing all these moves like there's no problem. And me and the other guy up there sweating bullets trying to get our legs over our heads. It's just everybody thinks that stuff is easy. And I'm like, all right, grab a mat and meet me in there. We'll see how hard it is. But
no, I can't even lift my leg up to my stomach, let alone
it's
over my head.
amazing how strong these women are because it's all in your core. Like all the Pilates is in your core, and it's just they're like doing all these moves and stuff, and I'm sitting there just like sweating, trying to get my legs over my head.
Oh my God! You mentioned the foot stomp, and I got to tell a quick story. This was the first time I actually ever met you, and I do remember this clear as day. It was in 1994 in Bangor at the Worlds. I had bowled in 92 and 93. And then in 94, you were bowling. And I forget. The only thing I don't remember, you weren't with Maria's then, right? Or were you?
I've always bowled with Maria's.
Okay. I wasn't bowling against you. But I remember you're up and you did the foot stomp. And the only thing that went through my head, obviously, I'm not a big guy. And back then I was not a big guy, meaning I was 140 pounds at the most, and
you are half the man you are now.
I know. And I just remember watching you bowl and you stomped. And the only thing I looked over and I looked at Wayne Hand, who was on my team. And I was just like, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, holy shit, remind me not to piss him off. Now, obviously, this is before I knew you, but...
94 was like one of my favorite years at the Worlds. And you guys going to know what I'm talking about. The very first year when nobody really knows who you are. And you go up there, because I had only bowled, like I just made... It was funny because 94 kind of came kind of quick for us. It was like Jack Sanick and Craig were in the same league I used to bowl in. And they had come talk to me at the beginning of 94, and they said, we'd love to bring you on our team, but we're already like a full team. They had Paul Berger, they had Cookie Richards, they had, Deanie Myrick, they were loaded already. So I'm like, all right, whatever, because I always stayed in our area. I never chased really roll-offs that much back then. And Charlie was always the guy on the American side. If there was an opening spot for a team, he would reach out to other people and try to get a team to come and bowl in the Worlds. So I know him and Jimmy had some problems back in '87. I don't know what happened. Then Jimmy left the tournament. So he contacted Jimmy and Donnie Richmond like 2 weeks before we started. And he goes, we need help. We need to get a team. And they said, okay. So Jimmy had asked me like 2 weeks before we started, hey, do you want to come up and take a week off and bowl? And I said, yes, I'd love to. It'd be great. So then he grabbed me, Danny Lasco, Ray McGurk, and Johnny Lang. And it was Donnie and Jimmy. So it was like 6 of us. And we went up there. We didn't even have shirts on. Nobody had like shirts. So they're like, who are these guys? And it was great being the underdog. Like nobody knows who you are. So we get up there. And I remember that Monday they had an article on one of the Bangor papers talking about Charlie's team. They were like one of the favorites that, Charlie wants to win this tournament. It's his own tournament. They haven't won the tournament yet, blah, blah, blah. So they do the sides and we draw and we bowl them the first match, very first match. And back then, as we know, there's only 3 teams that made the playoffs. And we took 8 off them the first match. And they're like, who are these guys? Who the hell are these guys? They didn't know Lasco, myself, or John Lang. They knew Jimmy Powers and they knew Donnie Richmond.
Yep.
And they might have known McGurk for Channel 5. But that's about it. And the rest of us, they were like looking at us like, who are these guys? Who are these guys? And I remember they used to like a couple of teams, like we met Carrington's team, that team had only lost 2 points the year after in 95 up in Fredericton. We bowled that team in 94, and they sat Ulster and they sat Carrington, and we bowled them and beat them for 6. That helped us get in the playoffs. And we bowled them in the semifinals, and we lost to them like 1975 to like 1950. And their team was loaded. They had Jackie Ray, they had Joe Ashline, they had Tommy Ulster, they had Carrington, and they had Atkins. That was their team back in '94. So they were stacked. And they were like, oh, we're going to not walk over these guys, but they were expected to win. And we bowled them tooth and nail all the way to the last couple of boxes. You know, and '94 was such a. Then next year you go back and as you guys know, after you get there the first year, you go back the second year. Now everybody knows who you are. And they want to beat you.
Yeah, now they want to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I remember we bowled Charlie's team in '95 at Old Fredericton. So we bowled there, and they remember that we beat them last year, and they were out for blood. And I remember Old Fredericton. They had two sides, and we were supposed to bowl on 23-24, and the lanes broke down. We had to go over on the other side, and we were the only matches over there. And it was like, I don't know if you were on that team, Tim, or not.
I was not on that team. Not in '94, '95. I didn't join Charlie's team until '99 or 2000 is when I joined Maine Heat.
Yeah, in '95 we had added Bognano and we added Billy Travis.
Yep.
To basically form Marias, and they had Al Joy, they had Russ, and and they had a lot of the good main teams, and it was a battle, and they beat us for 6. And I remember Billy Travis like, I don't like these guys, and I just knew there was a rivalry because there was always a rivalry with Jimmy and Jimmy with that team and Charlie with our team. It was always a good match. So I knew after that the rivalry was born. After that, it was great.
It's really familiar listening to you say that because my first year was '92 and Charlie called me 2 weeks before, and I was actually at a friend's house playing cards, and I got a phone call and someone's like, Tim, there's some guy, Charlie Milan, wants to talk to you. And I'm like, what the hell is Charlie Milan calling me at a friend's house for? And how the hell did he get this number?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, he called down to the bowling alley, got my mom was down, whatever. But same thing. My experience a little bit different was I made it to the semifinals on the singles, and I ended up having to bowl some guy named Jeff Atkins. And
I know all about him.
And I didn't know. I mean, I kind of heard the name, but I was 21. I didn't know anyone from Massachusetts at that time. My only experience with Massachusetts was in the late 80s. I went down to watch the Pepsi doubles in Westbrook, Maine, at Colonial, and Russ and Al had to bowl Tommy Olson's some young kid by the name of Steve Reno, and Steve Reno goes 468 or something like that, and I just sat back and went, I don't know what I just saw, but that was amazing,
Wow.
So I made it to the semifinals. I threw a double strike in the 4th and the 5th box. I had a little bit of a lead, and people are looking at Jeff, and they're looking at me going, who the hell is this little kid? Like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know I was supposed to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I did because
he made sure you remembered in a bit, though.
Because you don't expect anything, and anything you get's gravy. That's
yeah.
Awesome.
Paul Grant just sent us that Chris Sargent has 14 200 strings and 13 500 series.
That's insane.
I mean, that's just
the most incredible 5 strings I've ever seen in my life. I watched him throw in Newport in a singles tournament the year it opened in 05, and he went 808. And I looked over at him at one point and said, whenever you want me to just not go, just say step back. Somebody going at 160 clip, you just don't want to get in front of them and throw them off of anything. But I don't know if you
do you have an 800, Bob? Bobby,
No.
do you have it? No.
I got my high 3 is 497. I had a chance for 500. I missed a spare the last box. I had a 2-pinner and I missed it. But my high is like 765.
Okay. I mean, it's still. I mean, you start looking at anything over 725, and you're like, Jesus, like that's bowling. That's bowling. I mean, it's just
bowling.
It's yeah.
Well, it's like you look at your high 10, Tim, and you're still trying to figure out how to find 80 more pins that Ross had that day in Bangor.
80? No.
Oh.
20.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I witnessed Russ bowl as 1489. 89? 1480?
No, 80.
No. 1480.
Nate beat it by 1, 1481.
No, I know Nate beat it by 1, but I thought it was like 14, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's 14, somewhere between 1480 and 1490. And the day I bowled my 1459, I got done, and I didn't even think about that. I was thinking someone mentioned something like, "Oh, you almost caught Russ for the state record," and I'm like, I look back and I'm like, where the hell do I find 30 more pins? Like, it just it boggles my mind. You start looking at these. So, Bobby, what's your favorite memory from bowling?
For teams, I would have to say definitely the 2 world titles were definitely the most fun. But for singles,
definitely not one of those. That was that was bad. One of those doesn't count.
2008.
2008. That doesn't count.
Oh, but the next
because that was against me.
Oh, but Timmy, you didn't bowl that match.
That's right. I didn't bowl that match, so it's okay.
The next year could count. Do you remember that one, Bob?
I do remember that.
2009.
Yes. And I remember, and Calvin's gonna remember this too. Calvin made the 5-6 against me. We were both bowling leadoff, and he made the 5-6 against me. I got a good Calvin story. It's funny because I remember when Calvin first went up there, right? He comes up to me and he knows who I am. And I think it was when Calvin's one of his first years. He goes, "Oh, I know who you are, blah blah blah," and I ended up bowling like over 400 against him, right? So the next year I bowl him again. I think it was in Halifax, and he goes to me. He goes, "Hey, I remember what you did to me last year. You bowled 400." And he went and did the same thing to me the next year and bowled like 4. He bowled with 400. So
yeah,
I knew Calvin was going to be good right away when I saw him bowl. I go, oh, this kid's going to be good. Because you could tell by the talent. You could just tell people, yes, no. And I could tell that Calvin was going to be really good back then. He was young.
I think Calvin had a 400 in his first Worlds match.
I did, yeah. 4-12.
Yeah, because you bowled Vacation Land on 23 and 24 in Bangor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember
the fact
that.
Brian remembers like other people's stuff.
It's because he doesn't need to remember his own.
He's like,
oh, wow. Sorry, Brian. That just came out. That just
wow. Honestly, Bobby, one of my favorite matches of all time. It was a loss of mine, but it was still one of my favorite matches. Was Main Heat versus Maria's in 2004. I think it was either 2002 or 2004 in Bangor in the semifinals. And Craig and I were bowling anchor, and I think you were bowling first. I think you were bowling leadoff.
First, yep.
And it came down, and we were. It was a tie match with 2 boxes to go. Everybody's bowled 3 strings.
It was tight the whole way.
I mean,
I do remember that.
And we won't talk about me blowing the head pin out a couple of times, but Craig made a nice shot in the 10th to seal it. But it was always bowling against you and Craig. Probably my favorite
matches.
2 people to bowl against, just because.
Oh yeah, and I remember that after we bowled you guys, we bowled A+. I remember we bowled A+ in the finals, and I remember sitting there looking at the scoreboard, and we had 1272 after 2 games, and we were down 80 pins. When A+ won their first championship at Bangor, and those guys had like 13 in chain. I remember looking up, I'm like, oh my god, we got 1270 and we're down 80.
Yeah,
and they bowled tremendous. They were one of the obviously, A+, Calvin's team and McLaughlin were, unbelievable teams back in the day. No question.
McLaughlin. That must have been 2004 then, because I think it might have been 2006. Maybe it was 2006.
2005 was my first Worlds. That was in Halifax. So 6 would have been, yeah. I bowled Bobby that year. Leadoff.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby was a little bit bigger back then, so we had quite the match up there.
We're tipping the scales, you and I.
Yeah, we were.
So how have you stayed relatively injured, other than this year, with your foot? How have you stayed relatively injury free then? Because that's not easy to go 30 years at 120 plus is not easy.
It's 1992, 1991, 1992 season.
Yeah,
I got started like in the late, but it's always like my exercise routine. I go to the gym a lot. I'm a big gym guy. Now I walk a lot. I've always tried. I've gotten better over it because I always been a big eater. I've kind of like cut back on stuff like that, just trying to stay in bowling shape and just try to keep it going. Makes a big difference.
Yeah. So
And,
what do you think, Bob? I've got a pretty, it's kind of a big question, is the difference between us and the new generation of bowlers. What do you find to be kind of the biggest difference between bowling back in the day when we were?
I think, some of the courtesy stuff is like, because I remember and you remember, Timmy, is like the first couple of years in the 90s when we bowled in the Worlds, like we were getting done like at 5 o'clock.
Mm.
Now we're getting done like at 7:30. So I think a lot of the younger guys, they're more worried about like cutting somebody off. I think they go, because I remember like if you're on the right and I'm on the left, if you go through the gut and blow the guts out and I throw a strike, I'm resetting my pins. I'll let you throw your second and third ball. Then I'm ready to go. And as soon as you hit the button reset, I'm on the left. I'm throwing my next ball. Yeah. It's just the speed of the matches are a lot slower now than it used to.
But do you think it's, well, I think some of it's that, but would you say some of that's also the scoring, meaning the scoring conditions aren't quite the same as they used to be at the same time?
To be a lot quicker, as I remember. Maybe because I was better when I was younger. It seems like it's harder to score now, but like I always enjoyed bowling in Halifax, and they moved pretty well there. Even though, as Marias, we always bowled better in Bangor, and I always felt like we had a better chance of winning in Bangor than we did in Halifax with A+ and McLaughlin up there, and they were tough to beat up there. But I don't know, the younger guys today, I see a lot of this, to me, I just think they're just as, the talent is still there, like Josh Daly and, Timmy Douglas and a few other guys, or young Charlie Collins. I see these other guys. I just think there's less of those guys than there used to be. Like back in our day, younger Tim, they'd be like 40 guys that'd be average 120. Now you see very few of them, which is too bad. Hopefully we can decide getting back to what we should be,
I think maybe some of that might be opportunities. And I don't mean like opportunities and big things. I just mean like it's hard to go bowl at $3 a string open bowling to get good. And you really got to bowl a lot to get good. And I just think it's hard now and expensive to bowl leagues. I mean, your average league is what, $15?
Oh, yeah.
Plus gas. And I mean, it's different up in Maine. Like Timmy and I drive an hour to get to a league because that's the closest.
That's tough. I'm lucky to be down here where it's like on a regular Tuesday night, it takes me 15 minutes to get to the bowling alley. Like most of our traveling, Craig and I are on Fridays because we're the only team that's off of Boston that bowls Friday nights.
Yeah.
So we do the most travel. We're like the Seahawks. We do the most traveling.
Where are you guys going to bowl this year? Friday nights?
It's still undecided. I think we might end up in Abington or Hingham. I think they're still kind of working on it. So we want to stay south of Boston if we can, because it's a lot of, like I said, Friday night traveling is kind of tough. So if we can just stay south of Boston for half our matches, that would be great. I know Millis is working on getting a team this year, and they still got to vote on it if they're going to allow Millis into the league or not. So they're kind of up in the air with that.
I mean, Millis, I would think. Well, I mean, it's off from $4.95. It's off from $4.95, but.
Well, you know what it is like when they first started this pro league on Fridays, it was a North Shore Pro League, and you had to be within an hour of Metro. If you weren't an hour for Metro, they would not allow you have a team out of that house. And Millis was like an hour and 10 minutes. So they were kind of like, no, you're too far. That's why we wanted to go to Abington probably years ago, but we were kind of like a little bit past the point. So we had to go to Holbrook or Weymouth at the time. Now Weymouth's closed. Now Holbrook looks like they'll be out the door too. So we might be going to Abington because I don't know if Holbrook's going to reopen next year or not. I would say no at this point.
I would think Millis would be that'd be an interesting place for a team.
Yeah, it would entice more like Western Mass guys to come bowl for the Millis team. Maybe we'll get a couple of teams out of there, and it would bring more, because if you only have to go out there once or twice a year because you bowl everybody 3 times, if you only have to go out there once or twice, and why not make the effort? Especially if they're gonna try to adjust the start time. I guess maybe there was some talk of that, to maybe start at 7 or 7:30 if everybody could make it there on time instead of an 8 o'clock start. I know that was a possibility. I know Exeter is getting a team next year. I think that's where Barber and those guys are going next year.
Really? So they're not gonna bowl out of Woburn?
I heard they were going to Exeter.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and I know Josh put a super young team together, and they got a pretty good team. They're going to be bowling out of Academy, I believe, with Nick Norcross and Deanie Harris and Justin. So, and Charlie Collins.
Who was that again?
It was Josh. It was Josh Daly, Deanie Harris, Justin Waters, Nick Norcross, and it was Charlie Collins.
Okay.
Oh, so Charlie, Nick, and Josh are leaving Sunnyside then?
I believe so, yes.
Or taking that team.
And Deanie and Justin were going to move and bowl with them.
So, Bobby, would you say in your 30-plus years of bowling, I'm going to call it bowling professionally, and I think we all know what we mean by a professional Candlepin bowler. Would you say that Friday Night League it's the best league you've bowled on?
Absolutely. No question about it. It's like there's some good leagues, like down here we have a South Shore league where most of the South Shore guys bowl, but the Friday nights it's set up just like the Worlds. I always liked it because it's 2-box bowling. I've always bowled better 2 boxes. I've enjoyed 2-box bowling, and I enjoy the team bowling much more than the individual stuff, to be honest with you.
I've had the pleasure the last 2 years of being able to sub a couple of times, make the drive down and sub, and it's cool. It's fun.
It's a good league. I know. And I know that Calvin came down a couple of years ago and saw us bowl. It's good to have those matches. Those are the fun matches when you're bowling against the real good teams, and we're all kind of, battling for position, having fun too, but trying to win also. So I like having both. We can have fun with those guys, like Dave Godwin and those guys. We had fun with them, but you're trying to beat them too. So it's kind of like a good combination of both.
I make lots of money every year when I come watch the Friday Night League. So
Yeah,
it's great. I love it every year.
It's cool to me that, and again, this is to me one of the biggest differences between back in the day, Bobby, and then now is the technology. Now you can stream these, and so I can sit at home up here in the mid coast of Maine, and I'm able to watch. It's
great. And I told Paul and those guys, they do a terrific job. Bob Lee, Paul and those guys. It's a hard job to do. A lot of people don't want to interview, like after, if you bowl 320, it's hard to put a microphone in your face and say, hey, how'd you do tonight? Blah, blah, blah. I understand that. But it's good for the game to have more people watch, because the most watched videos are the Friday night matches.
Oh,
so
easily.
Yes. So we got to keep that going. And because look at Easter this year. Easter sold out. You're starting to see a little comeback. I think just having that access out there where people can watch people bowl, it just brings it up a little more. It brings more interest into the game, and that's what we all need. Is get the younger crowd back in it and get it back to where it should be. I think it was awesome this year that Easter was sold out. I think that's terrific.
That was cool. That's a one tournament that I never had a chance to bowl in, mainly because my kids were younger, and then as they got older and I got older, I was just a little bit more hurt, and I knew I couldn't get through 20 strings. And I wasn't.
You could, but you'd have to take a week off.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was like I might be able to compete for the first 10 or 14 strings, but after that, like because of my back, I'm like, I can't justify spending the $150 plus gas and food and all that good stuff.
I'll tell you what, if you're in the running though, the last 5 games you bowl on adrenaline. You really do. If you're in the hunt and you're in the top 10 going into the last 5 games, and you got a chance to win, that adrenaline takes over, and you don't really feel as tired as, like, I've been on both sides of it where I'm trying to win, and other years where I'm probably in the bottom half of the drawing, and it's so much harder because you're out of it at that point, and you have no really, you just want to keep going and try to get high singles, but it's when you're in the tournament that you don't really feel tired.
Yeah. So I'm putting a question on here from Angela Paquette. So it's a 3-part question, Bob, and I'd like you to answer those 3 there. Are you a spot bowler?
Yes, I am a spot bowler. I find my spot. So when I go to a new alley I've never bowled before, you might see me from the foul line is walk my steps back to find my exact spot where I need to stand and find my spot like right at the right, not too far, not too close, and just try to find the right spot, throw some warm-up boxes and get comfortable. Bowling ball weight, I've always thrown 2 7s. I've thrown 2 7s since I was back in the early 90s.
And how do you answer this last question?
What makes you a better bowler than Tim? I don't know if I am a better bowler than Tim back in the. I remember the first time, the first time I ever bowled anchor at the Worlds, I bowled against you for 6 boxes. We had just won a match. Donnie was struggling, and for the first 4 boxes, and we were bowling you guys, and obviously it was an intense match, and you were bowling anchor for Maine. And Jimmy goes, all right. And of course, there's no warm-up boxes. The band boy goes, all right, get your balls and you're ready to go in for Donnie right here. And I'm up there. I'm like, you want me to bowl last? I'm like, oh yeah, you get in there and you bowl last. We were down like 50. And you go up there like all stone face, like good luck, Bob. And I'm like, oh, all right, we'll see what happens. And I remember we got it kind of close, and you closed me out. You got 2 marks on the end, and you beat me with a couple of spares on the end.
So you're not a better bowler than me then.
Some days he only had 6 boxes. You already know how to lead.
He almost caught you, and he only had 6 boxes.
Yeah. I would say, from one Hall of Famer to another, that we're about equal.
Yeah.
Some days you're better than me. Some days I might have been better than you, but
exactly. He's got more world titles, so you're still 3rd best on this stream.
No, we count in mixed worlds because I've got a couple of those too. So I've got at least 3.
Men's. We're men in a men discussion right now.
We're
talking about man versus man.
I've got more state titles than all 3 of you combined.
Yeah, you do. Because I don't bowl out of your state.
Well, it doesn't matter. I still got more state titles.
I got more provincial titles than you do. So what am I? Number 1.
I have Mass and New Hampshire states, though. So I have more states.
Bob's a double stater.
That's right. So if you guys got a little bit more time, I'd like to keep the conversation going for a few more minutes. That good?
Sure. Oh, I guess.
Okay. Because this is a really good question from Ian. So Bobby, if you were to coach youth bowlers, what would be one of the first things you'd teach them?
First thing I would teach them, first you got to have fun. Number 1 rule in bowling, you got to have fun. You got to learn to laugh. Then it's about throwing the ball correctly, getting through. Like if you're right-handed, you want to make sure all your techniques will lead to better bowling. Be able to throw the ball correctly. Like I know some people bowl off the wrong foot, and that's the way they're taught. That's the way they would. But if I was going to start with like youngsters, I would try to get them to be able to throw the ball correctly. It's important. It's almost like a golf shot. If you're leaning one way, you're slicing or hooking. It's the same thing in bowling. Be able to just get that good follow through. It's the handshake approach. Like I've talked to other people, like what am I doing wrong? You're not following through. And I always do the handshake. I go, if you shake somebody's hand, you reach right out. That's what you do when you bowl. You got to reach right out with the ball.
Yeah.
I always say reach for the pin.
Reach for the pin.
Go like you're grabbing the pin.
Bobby and I have had that discussion at Exeter before on a Sunday.
Yeah. That's right.
So here's a question. So I love this fact that we could just put the questions right up here.
I like that too.
How would you rank the relative importance of accuracy, speed, spin rate, and consistency of approach? And I think what Wayne's kind of talking here is maybe not the importance of all of them, but maybe in like accuracy is more important than this, which is more important. You know what I mean?
I think accuracy is number 1 in Candlepin. That's in our game. If you come in throwing 100 miles an hour and you're on the 7-pin, it's not going to work out too well for you. It's accuracy, spin on the ball, and speed helps if you're accurate. If you can be accurate and put spin on the ball and with a little pace on it, you're going to score. No question about it. But I always feel that accuracy is number 1. You got to have if you're not on your pins. How many times you've seen people, they get quarter pin hits for a while, they score for a while, and sooner or later that's going to dry up and you're going to half wister or leave a bunch of Caleries, and you're not going to make them. I'd rather shoot singles and 2-pinners all day.
That's why
everything.
I shouldn't say I've never worried. I don't mean it the way it's going to come out, but when I say that, I've never really worried about someone that's just hucking the ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
too.
yeah, you may beat me for a string.
Yeah, exactly.
But the consistency and the accuracy is going to outweigh in the long run for the most part.
I think
especially
another factor.
like,
oh, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, like on a one string, anybody, we all know it. In a one string, you could throw it in the corner and beat anybody. But if you're talking 5 strings, the guy that's the most accurate and is on his pins will eventually cream rises to the top.
I think a big thing left out of that too is smoothness of ball, because your rotation doesn't matter if you slam it in the earth because it all comes off.
Yeah.
And then you start punching. So I think throwing a smooth ball like Bobby does is a big thing.
Yeah, it's slowed down over the years. It used to be a lot faster in the 90s than it is today, but as long as I can get to stay accurate, that's part of the game.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. Brian and I had this conversation, I don't know, last year, I think, that I am actually throwing the ball, or I was throwing the ball harder now, this past year, than I was back in the 90s.
Well, that's
early to mid 90s.
You have no legs.
I know. I found that I had to throw it harder to break the pins up more now than I did back then. Now
you're not driving to the line with your legs either. You're not pushing through and stuff.
I've changed because I used to come in right to left a lot more when I was younger and be able to get the ball to like break more. But now since I've gotten older, I can't get the ball there. So I adjusted like almost like a major league pitcher where I moved where now I'm more down the middle because I can't get the ball to move as much as I used to. So I moved over to the right, to the left, and I'm just right down the middle now instead of like right to left. And it's like, it's almost like, when Fred Tanana hurt his arm years ago and he used to throw 96 and he had to re-involve himself and he's throwing 82-mile-an-hour junk balls, but he's still getting people out,
The only guy that comes on the show in 122 episodes and drops a Frank Tanana bomb.
Shows how old I am.
Nice. Couple of quick questions, and then we'll actually wrap it up here. We've all had the conversation, Calvin, Brian, and I, and others, on what your individual top 3 bowlers that you've seen. Okay. If you were to say the top 3 bowlers that you've seen, who would you say? And you don't have to put it in order of 1, 2, 3, just your top 3.
You don't have to say me first. It's okay.
But I've always enjoyed, like especially with like the, before I got on, it was Tommy Ulster. I've always enjoyed watching Tommy bowl. I've always enjoyed Craig, obviously, because he's my buddy and all that. But then Gary Carrington, I always enjoyed his game just because the way he was. A very intense guy. He hated to lose, and he was always, very competitive. So I always enjoyed those 3 guys the most. And I gotta say, I'll tell you what, on the Canadian side, I always enjoy. I know he's retired now, and I want to throw it out here right now. I want him to get his Hall of Fame for the next time is Robbie Henderson.
Yeah.
He is a Hall of Famer. I want him to get his paperwork done and get in because he's one of the best bowlers.
That whole team, really. I mean, I
absolutely
despise most of them, but that whole team, like you can't. And I know that there was a lot in the I think there was 2 teams in the 90s that won it like 4 or 5 times, and I think. But you throw a team that wins it 5 times in a row, like 6 out of 7 years. Like
they were an amazing team.
Like it's just a machine.
First ever Worlds match in 05 was McLaughlin. That was fun. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. People would say, hey, how come you only won twice? And I would say, well, McLaughlin Truck and Trailer and A+ had a lot to do with it. So those are great teams.
And then the last question I have, and this is a personal question, Bobby, is fantasy baseball or regular baseball?
Oh, fantasy all the way.
How many leagues are you in this year?
I'm in 2. I'm in a bowlers league that Nate Lees runs with Craig and a bunch of other bowlers, and me and Craig do a dynasty one.
So you still do that dynasty one?
Yes, I still do. I've been doing it since 96. And I got Craig in the league the year after. So him and I have been doing it for the last like almost over 20 years now.
Is this the, now I hate to say big money one, but this is the big money one, isn't it?
It's not really huge money, but it's a lot of prestige if you can win.
Because there used to be one that you guys did that was big money, right?
Oh, him and I did one.
Yeah.
Like we did one. Him and I went to his house and we drafted the team together, and it was like a $500 buy-in. Him and I, and we won. And we ended up making like about $5,000, like $2,500 a piece. And we, it was great. We beat all these other like so-called experts, and Craig and I took them down. It was great.
So, favorite teams, Red Sox?
Is your favorite team? Boston team?
No, favorite baseball team.
Red Sox. Unfortunately, I want them to lose this year. I do, because I want Chaim Bloom gone.
You know what the worst part is? You know what the worst part is? And people sit there and say, well, Chaim Bloom, he was the architect behind the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, the Rays. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was not the GM of the Rays. He was like the assistant.
All the young talent supposedly he's supposed to be bringing up. They got nothing. They really don't have that much. I just don't think they're a playoff team. I really don't.
No, I as much as I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, and I have been since the mid 70s. I mean, I still remember my mother waking my brother, my sister, and I up after Carlton Fisk hit his home run in 75. I still remember that. Getting woken up to see this. I was 4 years old. What the hell was I? I didn't know anything different. Cool, he hit a home run. But as I'm older, I look back and I'm like, holy crap. Talk about a moment.
Oh, yeah. I remember 86. I was at my first job at the Raynham Dog Track. And when the ball went through Buckner's legs and the Red Sox lost, I saw people going out to their cars, crying, punching their cars when the Red Sox lost that game. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was like, wow.
But Bobby, I think you can attest to this. Is two things at play here. One is that was not Buckner's fault.
No.
He had no business being on the field.
Well, for the previous 70 games, he had been replaced as a defensive replacement. Dave Stapleton had been the first baseman at the end of every game for the previous 70-plus games. But because McNamara wanted him in there to celebrate, he left him in. So there's that. And then they blew 2 3-run leads in Game 6.
Yeah.
Game 7.
Yeah. Game 7.
Game 7. They had 2
2004 really made up for it when they beat the Yankees and came back and swept the Cardinals. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just happy to actually. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was actually going to say, as a hockey thing, I'm actually happy I actually saw the Bruins win one championship before. Mm-hmm. I'm too old to never see it, because I don't know if they'll ever win again after what happened last year. I will freely admit I am an absolute blessed sports fan, and have been. No question, we all are for Boston fans.
I grew up a Celtics fan, so I grew up with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. I grew up with them. I grew up a Bruins fan with Ray Bourque, with Terry O'Reilly, with Cam Neely, with, all of these guys. Habs suck. And I grew up a Patriots fan. We sucked for a long time, but, you still had, you still had some fun teams with Steve Grogan and Stanley Morgan and Mosi Tupu, and you start Sam Bam Cunningham and John Hanna. You start talking about all these players from back in the 70s and 80s, but then you see what the Pats have done. Well, not so much the last couple of years, but at least the Brady years. And I know Brian loves it when I talk about the Brady years. He loves it.
I tell all my friends that are younger than 35, I go, you're so blessed to see all these teams win, because before 2001. This was the House of Horrors, like playing in Boston. Like none of the teams won.
Oh no, my son turned 26 like 2 weeks ago, and we were at the Bruins game this past year. We went to a Bruins game, and we go every year to a Bruins game, and we were driving back, and he chuckles and he goes, you know what, Dad? He goes, I'm kind of lucky. And I said, yeah. I said, I know. You got me as your father. And he laughs. He goes, no. He goes, I'm lucky. He goes, I don't know what it's like to have a losing team. And I look back and I'm like, the only losing team he ever had was one Celtics team in like the Rick Pitino years.
No, the year before they got Garnett and they lost 22 in a row.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
I thought Paul Pierce was going to jump off the building.
But he was 10. Like, he didn't know any different.
It was funny. In 2001, I went out to Vegas and I bet the Patriots to win the division. They were like 6-1 to win the AFC East. And the guy behind the window was laughing. He goes, "What are you betting them for?" There was a bunch of losers. And I go, "Well, I'm from Boston. They're my team, blah, blah, blah." And I never bet them to win the AFC or the Super Bowl that year because they were like 100-1. And I just thought I'd be throwing money away. And that was the year that Brady came in and they ended up winning everything. And like 100-1. I only had like the division. I had 6-1.
Yeah, live and learn.
Yeah.
Bobby, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
I'll come on anytime.
We definitely will do this again because I don't think we really scratched the surface of all that we really could talk about.
Stories that we could talk all night. All four of us could talk about this great matches I had with Calvin's team, your team. Brian, bowling against me up there. Just so much other stuff that we can talk about. It's crazy.
Oh, I got one before we go. What's your favorite? No, what's your favorite? No, I'm not going to ask that. I haven't asked that in a long time. Who's your favorite bowler from Maine that rhymes with? Give him no. What's your favorite shot that you've made?
Favorite shot.
Yep, meaning it could have won a match. It could have been a big moment.
Okay.
I don't really care.
I have one for you guys. In 2008, we were bowling McLaughlin at Bangor, and we could just never seem to get. We bowled them in Halifax, they would blow us out. We bowled them in Bangor, it was even the whole time. And I got up to 9. It was a close match, win the playoffs, and I dropped 6. And I left a check mark on the right side, and I split the 4 pins and made it. And threw a 9 fill on the last ball to put us up like 20 pins. So whenever I see that shot, I always think of the check mark to the right. Yeah, one of my favorite shots.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Bobby, thank you again.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Folks, as usual, I will say this again. Get on TikTok. Find Candlepin Bowling on TikTok.
Do it.
Have some fun going back through those old videos. It's so cool, and they've done such a great job with it. So let's keep them going, and hopefully they can get their live stream back sometime soon. You can find us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us Ripping the Rack Podcast on Gmail. Ask us any questions. You can find Brian on OnlyFans, Big Booty Brian. You can also send us your questions, your comments to rippingtherackpodcast@gmail.com. Brian, we need 2 things from you. We need the disclaimer, and where else can they hear us?
The views and expressions of Ripping the Rack Podcast today are those of Tim, Calvin, Bob, and myself. And if you don't like them, well, we have 2 Hall of Famers and you don't. So, and you can hear us on YouTube, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Anchor, Breaker, and wherever else you hear.
Breaker. We got the Anchor, Breaker.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.